Broadcasting live in downtown Oakland.
I'm David Hollander, and you're listening to Protect Your Assets. Over the last 20 years, I've met many people dissatisfied with the lack of value and personal attention their financial advisor provides them. At Liberty Group, we personalize every aspect of our clients' retirement and financial plan with estate law, wealth management, and tax planning all under one roof. Call today to make the rest of your life the best of your life.
Well, just 1 week ago, we found ourselves racing here at the Red Bull Ring. Today, though, we return for what is bound to be just an exciting race we saw just 1 week ago. We get set to kick off the second half of the season and round number 2 of the Red Bull Ring doubleheaders. Hello, one and all, and welcome to the Real Racers Virtual Club's fall season presented by Liberty Group, and welcome to RaceSpotTV Tuesday night action. My name is Lola Rampol. I have got Sumo Aurora beside me in the commentary box with Hugo Louise down behind the cameras for what is bound to be an incredibly exciting 25-minute race. Now, the last time we came here, well, just 1 week ago, Sumo, and boy, is there ever a lot to cover as we get set to kick off yet another 25 minutes here in Austria.
You're so right about that, Nolan. It was just a ton of action all the time, and that is exactly what the Real Racers Virtual Club has been all about right from the very beginning. It's crazy. We expected a big draft fest, but we didn't quite get exactly that. We saw some tremendous racing, but it was a different form of racing, a more docile, a more sane one. And even though it is something like that, it is just as interesting, just as mad.
It was an entertaining race, I think it's worth saying the very least, as so far every race has been so far here in this fall season, and in fact the bits of the spring season that we were able to cover just 1 week, or well, actually just earlier on in this year. We get set to see what we can do here as we get set to kick off the second half of the season. Round number 7, we are still in Austria before we swing over to further Western Europe, over to the Silverstone circuit. Of course, it's the Legacy National Air we're going to, which should provide an entertaining race in of itself, before we go back stateside for the final 3 races at Sonoma, Laguna Seca, and of course Road America to round out the season in November. So it should be an entertaining final 5 or so races coming on up for us. And the championship battle still as tight as ever as we get set to see who can dice it out later on out throughout the season. Anders Krohn still sits top of the boards with 79 points. That is just 11 over Max Bartlett. 11 points back in the look down in third, though, and in fact 5th, tie for positions all the way from 3rd down to 6th.
That is how close the Real Racers Virtual Club will always be. Always some close competition everywhere throughout the field. And the best part is, you might currently be in, say, some place like P6, P7, P8, there, thereabouts. But one good race weekend, and you can catapult yourself up such a high position in the order. And that's the fun part, right? Everyone is just all together in this league. It's all so competitive. It's just too much fun. And there are more people joining in as well all the time.
Of course, there are, quite a few names coming on into today. It's actually a much bigger field than we even saw just last week. In fact, it is set to be a 16-car field, the way things are lining up at the moment here at the Red Bull Ring. It should be a rather interesting, combination of drivers we're getting set to come on up here today. In fact, you'll look at the top of the practice boards, and already you have a new name at the top, Phil Dean, currently at the top of the boards. Now, he's a guy we have not seen so far in this series, but he is getting set to actually potentially get his thing started off well. He started his open wheel racing all the way back in 2014 in the Skip Barber Driving School and was a national champion in the Formula Speed 2.0 series with World Speed Motorsport. So you got some guys with a lot of experience that are set to come in today. Anders Krohn's crown might not be as safe as he might like anymore.
Exactly. Phil Dennis, of course, racing for BS competition as well on the iRacing scene. He's a guy who knows not only his GT cars, but also his open wheelers. And he's got quite a fair bit of real-life experience here as well. And so we were all genuinely shocked when we saw his name in the entry list. Normally, Phil Dennis would race in big championships, as we all know. But seeing him here is such a good thing. Just here to have fun on Tuesday night. That's what it should be all about in the end.
And then, of course, you have other drivers throughout the field that actually are even possibly friends and, in fact, teammates with some of the other drivers in real life. Look over to the likes of Tyler McQuarrie, one of the newer drivers coming in today. He actually races in the same entry in the IMSA Mitsubishi Pilot Challenge that Nolan Siegel does. So it goes to show some of these guys, you know, they certainly don't tend to be that far away from each other in terms of the real world. They even race at the same races for one another. So you got McQuarrie, who's currently coming to this one in the top 10 in the standings. He's got 2 podiums in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. He also works as a mentor in Ford's NASCAR driver development program. So again, a lot of guys with fresher experience coming on in. Looks like the call that Sheldon put out just last week certainly doing some work.
Exactly, you're so right about that. It's crazy that only last week Rick Sheldon was speaking to us and he said that we'd love to have more drivers in this championship. And not only have we got more drivers, but the caliber of those drivers, real world experience and the quality that they bring in, it's just tremendous. I get a feeling this one is going to be probably one of the better races of the season, not only just considering the circuit and how good the last race was, but also who's joined us this time as well. So that just amplifies it in a way.
One other new name that we were keeping our eyes on today to see where he'll find himself is, of course, Charles Cruz. He's one of the last big names that comes in today, a name that we have not seen so far throughout the last couple of seasons. And, of course, Charles Cruz, also with that real-world experience. He, of course, raced in the Atlantic Championship back in 2006. In 2004 and 5, it was the Star Mazda Championship, and even further back in 2003, the Formula TR Pro. So you got some guys that are definitely looking to see if they can have what it takes in the Pro Mazda series, but we are racing the Star Mazda here today, so out of all those guys, I think Charles Cruz might actually have a good shot at having a good result today.
Indeed, yeah, but so far there's not been much to play for in the practice session. He's still in P number 13. There's still a little while to go, of course, until we get the race beginning. But yeah, this doesn't quite look like the best of qualifying positions for Cruz right now. But again, it's a long race. There is ample of time for everyone to actually salvage something, and that's the fun part about the Red Bull Ring, right? It's so wide open, it is so big. There's always a chance. There's always an opportunity where you can make up a few positions, and this just might be the best place for that.
And then, of course, there are other names that we haven't even seen so far throughout the season, but we've seen in the past. You look at John Trefethen, who is now once again getting his throwing his hat into the ring. He has only made, I believe, 1 start so far all season long thus far. John Showerman raced in the Formula 3 season back in, it was back in the spring. He has not made a start so far in this fall season, but gets set to make his first start in the second round of the doubleheaders in the Star Mazda. He's currently at the bottom of the practice boards, but of course, practice is practice. Qualifying and the race, a whole other matter entirely. And there is just a couple of minutes to go, and already in just practice boards, it is just about 2.8 seconds or so separating first on back to 16th place. And I'm gonna tell you right now, 9 of those drivers, they're only within 1 second of each other. So it's, again, gonna be a very tight pack today.
Of course it is going to be. And last time out, we saw a little bit of an anomaly. We saw, I mean, not an anomaly of sorts, but Krohn was leading. He was having a really fun time, which he usually tends to do. And there was a fair bit of a gap, say 10 seconds between himself and Robert McGuinness back in P number 3. But I don't think that's going to happen this time out. Considering how Krohn and Dines are already, and considering that Stefan Wilson is also just gaining confidence and gaining time, I don't really think anyone is actually going to go out there and dominate this one.
It's never a case where you can go out and dominate a race so far. I mean, we saw Anders Krohn do that just 1 week ago, but even he was mentioning that he was a bit surprised and managed to get with that big of a lead. And he got that big of a lead because of that massive checkup that occurred during the pace lap, or I guess the half pace lap that takes place here at the Red Bull Ring, because there was one of those drivers in the inside line had some trouble getting his car fired. So that is why there was that massive checkup, and that checkup is what allowed for Anders Krohn to get such a huge launch over the field. He was saying, though, he was not necessarily confident he'd be able to replicate that result today.
Exactly. And you can see that happening already. You can see how Phil Dines has just gone out there and put in a lap time that's even faster than the one that was clocked in early on. He's just put in the distance, put in the gap, which is crazy, right? Because Phil Dines is coming in and racing in this series for the first time, as far as I can remember. And he's been watching, he's been coming along in a YouTube chat, having a little bit of fun, but coming here in the first go and driving so well in the first qualifying session, that takes just something else. And so far, he's already beating the main dominator of the championship.
And we're not talking he's dominant or he's passing up Anders Kron by a little bit. Look at the gap, over a quarter of a second. That is not a time to be ashamed of. That is a fantastic time, almost breaking the 126s, which would be the first time we've seen anybody do that so far, and not just this round, but also the last one as well here at the Red Bull Ring. But as qualifying comes to a close, I want to give a shout out to some of the guys that helped keep the lights on here at the Real Races Virtual Club. And of course, got to give a huge shout out to start things off with the title sponsor, Liberty Group LLC. They believe that everybody should be able to live the retirement that they've always wanted. And their team of professionals can help you to create a well thought out strategy using a variety of investments and insurance products and services to help you address your financial needs and concerns. As well as that, the Stefan Wilson Racing Academy SWAR exists to assist clients on their motorsport journey. They utilize 20 plus years in the sport with advanced coaching techniques, track and car knowledge, and widespread international industry connections that help clients progress to any level imaginable. Whether the client is new to driving on track or an experienced amateur racer, they help their clients develop driving skills that enable them to climb through the Ferrari Challenge ranks, win races in Ferrari Challenge, advance to competing in Pro-Am racing, and one day possibly iconic races such as the Daytona 24 or the Le Mans 24 Hours. And last but certainly not least, Mera Partners. They are a high-end boutique car dealership that specializes in Porsche and Ferrari. With an extensive network of private clients, Merit curates rare and exotic cars for the purpose of buying, selling, and creating investment portfolios. The focus of Merit is to build long-term relationships over time, choosing to have a narrower focus and going deeper with clients. Additionally, Merit offers a wide range of peripheral services for clients, including car storage, detailing, specialty parts, and paint protection film. Those are some of the guys that help to keep the lights on here at the Real Races Virtual Club. Qualifying presently underway from the Red Bull Ring. You look back to one of the newer drivers coming on into today, Tyler McQuarrie. Of course, we just talked about this earlier on today. Nolan Siegel's teammate in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge in that Audi R8 GT4 number 93 entry. And so what he can do is he puts down, well, he's starting his first flying lap of the session. He's got 4 to take care of.
Normally he would be racing in that Audi R8 GT4, but this one, a bit of a new machine of sorts. Well, not a new machine in literal sense. This Pro Mazda car has been around for so long that it's actually been classified as a legacy car in iRacing. But to still adapt to the needs of this one, it's quite something. It's one of those cars that's easy to drive initially, but very hard to master and very hard to take our time from. And for Tyler, that's going to be the fun challenge here today.
It certainly drives a heck of a lot different than any GT4 machine, as you see, and just kind of pushed a little bit too wide through that apex, just at the base of turn number 4 through 5, and then back down on the first left-hand corner through turn 6, up and over the crest of the hill before diving it down this very short straight before turn 7. There you can see that access road on the right that joins the national circuit up with the main Grand Prix layout. Quick, flat out right-hand sweeper back to the right for turn 8, excuse me, where you get set to get hard on the brakes, and once again back down the hill for turns 9 and 10, two extremely critical corners to get right to round out the lap.
Indeed, it's quite a fun one. It's a fun circuit, the Red Bull Ring. The first couple of corners might look a little bit clunky when, of course, you've got hard braking zones and stuff like that. But the moment you get to the second and the third sector, that's when the fun really begins. That's where the Red Bull Ring comes into its own. It's a lot on the flow. It's a lot on how you tackle each corner flowingly. And that's the incredible part about that, where you can have flow and still have a circuit that's really good for overtaking.
You can see McQuarrie pushing just a little bit too wide at the exit of turn number 9. That caused him to invalidate his first lap. So it is Zach Hudson to go top of the boards with a 128.058. How about Stefan Wilson going second fastest on the boards, just over a 10th plus 5 thousandths behind Zach Hudson, right on board with Jackson Ball coming to the close of what will be his first qualifying lap on the day. So far, only 6 out of the 16 drivers have successfully set times. John Showerman has that benchmark time that you need to beat if you want to get off of that last row on the grid for the time being. Kurt Pinzager, the first driver to break into the 129s, and It's almost about another 0.3 of a second up to him. Valdo across the line. He'll log in a 128.745. That's good enough for 4th place, but only for the moment.
Indeed, yeah, but the gaps are frightening. That's what's really crazy. It's close between Rick Sheldon and Jackson Ball. Of course, good to see them all so close together. But at the top, right, there's 0.5 of a second between Anders Krohn and Hudson. And there's a chance it might just increase considering how confident Krohn has been so far this year. And that is somewhat frightening. You still will see a lot of packs coming in. You still will see lots of drivers being very close to each other. But at the top, you want to be something... You want to see a bit of a fight, which Krohn has been missing out a little bit. And so... maybe it's time for Phil Dennis to come in for a big one.
Max Butler went second fastest with Robert McGinnis in 3rd, but they've still got half a second up to your current provisional pole sitter, Matthew Escajeda. Running around turn number 10, he pushes super wide on corner exit. That might have invalidated the lap of that 25 machine. Comes across the line. And that will be good enough, though, to put him up in the 2nd place. How about that? Just pushing the limits on the exit of turn number 10. So Escajeda goes second fastest, but he still has over 3/10 to make up to your pole sitter. Now, here's the driver that we've been watching so far all throughout practice. He was about 2/10 up on Anders Krohn all throughout practice, and he is going to be attempting to see if he can maybe break into the 126s here today. It's been 127 so far. That has been the story in qualifying. He's trying to see if he can maybe go a little bit quicker. He was 2/10 quicker than Anders Krohn all throughout practice. He goes wide on the exit of turn 9, cuts it back in tight. Dennis going to be coming out of the final corner. He'll be blitzing his way across the line. Does the lap count? It does. It's a 27.159. Phil Deans is your new provisional pole sitter on the day so far, with over 4/10 back, or just about 4/10 back, to Anders Krohn. So Phil Deans is now your top driver up there on pole position. Robert McGinnis is going to improve by 1 place. He'll go up now to P number 5 on the boards, but he still has 8/10 up if he wants to try to run down Phil Dennis. You continue to watch Phil Dennis as he continues to duck his way back around the lap. Meanwhile, further down in the field, you can see Joe Butler improving a couple of places up the field. He's going to go 8th fastest on the board to Sumo.
Indeed, yes. So far, still early days in qualifying. You might be saying, well, how is it early days? There's only a few minutes left. People just get warmed up, right? Normally, it's your 2nd lap. That's the faster lap. Just building a momentum to them, just learning the track, understanding what the conditions are, and then you go for the banker. And this one is the bank lap for Anders Krohn.
He was on his 4th and final lap. The 3rd lap wasn't validated, so this is his last chance to try to push past Phil Dennis and retake pole position. Anders Krohn has been starting up on the front row so much throughout the season. He's almost guaranteed to start on the front row today, but he's trying to see if he can get yet another pole position and yet another race win. Going to be blitzing his way across the line, coming up to the line, a 127.552. He improves on the time, but he does not improve on his positioning. Anders Krohn looks to be starting this race out from 2nd place.
Indeed, yeah, he just made a marginal improvement, and that just goes to show how crazy it is and how tricky it is to get more time at the Red Bull Ring. There's only, 9 real corners? How much more time can you extract from each corner? Which just makes the best laps even more crazy because they've just done that over 9 corners, not 21.
Right on board Matthew Escajeda, and Escajeda has honestly been the big talking point so far, hasn't he, Subal? I mean, he has not had the best of seasons thus far. He's been almost looks like struggling to get to grips with the car, but looks like he's finally got that thing underneath him as he currently sits 3rd on the boards, and he's going to be pulling over to the left-hand side and recognized he wasn't going to improve his time, so might have been waving a little bit out of frustration. You had also seen Robert McGinnis improving another place, getting past Max Butler as he broke into the 127s. That put him up to 4th place. Look back to Jackson Ball, who is now trying to get himself back up into the top 10. And you see on the left-hand side, all 17 drivers now have set qualifying times, and that is by far the biggest grid that we have had so far, not just since the start of the season, but since we started covering this series all the way back in the spring of this year.
Exactly. Oh, this is amazing to see. So many drivers, so much competition. This is just going to be fun. What does Jackson Ball do? It's a decent enough lap, somewhere in the mid-pack. And it's crazy, Nolan. Normally P11 would be the end of the pack, but to see it be in the mid-pack today just feels incredible.
And there you can see Kurt Penzagru, who honestly has been all over the shop so far in the last few seasons. He's had some races where he's been really high up, and he's had some races like today where he's really far down. You kind of never really know where Penzagru is going to be landing on the grid at one of these races. You kind of just have to go in, and he's just got to kind of hope for the best for it, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes things just don't work out for you. But what's really good to see is that Kurt still makes his way up into the series all the time. And there is that hope, right, that you can get something done in a particular run, and that's good to see with Kurt. And the best part is you turn up and you have fun. It doesn't matter if you're first, doesn't matter if you're third, but it does, but not as much as it would in another competitive series. So it's good to see just everyone coming out here, even though they might not be on the podium all the time, but just having the fun of going side by side with somebody at such a speed.
And he was the last driver to be able to finish a qualifying lap. So qualifying draws to a close. Let's take a look now at your official starting grid for round 2 here of the Red Bull Ring doubleheaders. It's Phil Deans, the newcomer, on a pole position, taking the crown away from Anders Krohn by a whopping 0.4 of a second. Matthias Gajeda starts all the way down in 3rd place with Robert Vergindes in 4th. Max Butler's in 5th, and already 9/10 back from Deans is going to be that number 2 car of Wade Michael.
Indeed, then we've got Zach Hudson starting in P number 7 with Joe Butler following along in P8. Stephen Wilson qualifying only in P number 9 this time out. That is a bit of an anomaly, but we can see where he can climb up. Tyler McQuarrie starts in P number 10, the newcomer, with Jackson Ball in P11, and Charles Cruz also a newcomer to the series in P12.
And that leaves Rick Sheldon down in 13th, Nicholas Leo in 14th. It's Kurt Panzager in 15th and John Trevathan in 16th. John Showerman making his first start so far on the year, down in 17th place, almost 3 seconds back from the 98 car's time. 4 drivers all set times in the 1:27, and then from there, let's go all the way back to 14th place before you get times that dip into the 1:29s. So, event format, as you can see at the bottom, is the usual 25 minutes for practice. We just went through the 10-minute 4-lap qualifying session. You wrap it up with a 25-minute race, and it should be an entertaining race, to say the very least, if last week is anything to go by, especially with so many larger names and newer names coming on into the season today.
Yeah, exactly. It's the biggest grid, as you rightly mentioned, that we've ever seen on a RaceSpotTV Real Racers Virtual Club broadcast. It's a good omen, right? It's a wide circuit where you can pass. It's a fun car where you can really go side by side without losing too much downforce. It's a car where you can draft and make good passes as well. And what else do you possibly need to have a good race? And you add in the fact that these are real world drivers with a ton of experience. It's just all the stars lining up together.
You saw the conditions, wind virtually non-existent, a nice cool 76 degrees Fahrenheit on the track. So pretty much optimal conditions here at the Red Bull Ring. You're not going to get a much better track than what these guys have got for them right now. So that alone should prove that tonight's race is not one you're going to want to miss. Pace car dives down the pit road, and the newcomer, Phil Deans, can be set to take them around turn number 10. It's in the hands of that 98 car. The field stacks up. They're doubled up. They're ready to go back racing. Deans is on the lap pedal. We are underway here for the Red Bull Ring. And trying to single file up, but they're still double wide all the way down throughout the field. Save for the top 2. We've already broken apart. Single file down to turn 1. How about the launch? Deep in the field for Charles Cruz, making up 3 spots in the braking zone in turn 1 alone.
Chaos in the background, but at the front, it's something really interesting. Escajeda losing out 2 spots on his grid slot already. That was a bad start.
Bad start from Escajeda, though. He still maintains the top 5. Still looking to go 3-1. This is turn number 3. Cruz getting forced to the left by Tyler McQuarrie. The 2 rookies in the series trying to go at it side by side with each other. Cruz really squeezed McQuarrie over towards the right side of the racetrack in the sprint into turn number 2, but they managed to keep it clean. And they're both trying to pass up Joe Butler at the moment, who's having to scramble wide just to avoid being cut into it. Oh, contact between Cruz and Stephen Wilson gets forced off the track, but no major damage for either driver, and they save it.
Oh man, that's 2 weeks in a row when Stephen Wilson is having some degree of damage on his front wing. Let's see if that's very significant or not. But the madness, this fight between McQuarrie and Cruz, that is why they joined in to do exactly this on a Tuesday evening.
And what a thrilling opening lap here from the Red Bull Ring. Honestly, you couldn't get much more excited than what we're getting right now. Behind, you see McQuarrie running a little bit wide as we watch Escajeda's battle with Wade Michael, just struggling at the moment to hang on to a top 5. It is going to be Demas to lead the opening lap of today's race. And look at the field, snaking across our straightaway. One car stopping on the right-hand side. That's Stephen Wilson now 1 step wheels. He pulled it off into the pit road, and it got a couple of drivers going wide. Anders Krone overshot turn 1. It might have even spun in turn number 1 as well. He's all the way down now, outside of the top 5, and under fire as well from Macquarie.
Wow, Anders Krone has dropped down to P number 6 from P number 2. That is incredible. What exactly has happened for Anders Krone right now? You can see his pink car losing momentum. Here's a look at the replay. I suppose this is Stefan Wilson pulling across and going back into the pits.
Wow.
Which is a bit sad to see. It would be fun to see him competing and fighting back all the way up, but maybe the damage was a bit too significant. But here's what's happened to Anders Krone, right? Lost the rear end.
Just dropped it on the apex. Took too much curb, I think, for the looks of it. Got the car unsettled. He's managed to retake that 6th place now from Tyler Macquarie, but it's not been an easy fight for Anders Krone. He's got a long way to go now if he wants to reel himself back up on and in. This could be huge here. Don't forget for that championship. Of course, Max Butler, I don't believe he is present tonight. He isn't too much further to the road, though. He is only up in 4th place at the moment, but that, of course, is now up to 3rd because Anders Krone just spun out in turn number 1. You're right on board further back with Zach Hudson, who is now in the thick of a midfield fight.
And for Hudson, it's been a case of a little bit of bad luck all the time so far this year. Knocking on wood that it becomes a little bit better for him. But right now in P number 9, it's a good place to be. You're in the middle of all the fighting, and you're in the middle of a proper draft train. This is the best place to be in if you want to have some fun, and that is what it's all about. But the fun part is, the draft train isn't as effective, seemingly, right now today.
I think it's the lower speeds that these drivers are exiting these corners from. They're not able to have the draft come into effect until they get into the higher gears, but they're not in the higher gears for too long before they already end up in the braking zone for the next corner. There you can see the run from Joe Butler coming up on that number 1 car, Tyler Macquarie. Look at Macquarie trying to squeeze Butler over to the left-hand side as they dive in for turn number 4. Joe Butler, a textbook crossover though in the sprint down to turn number 5, the flat-out right-hand sweeper. But this is going to give Macquarie the optimal line coming on down into turn number 5, and he'll retake that position. So the road, Anders Krone made up the move for key at number 5.
Indeed, yes, Anders Krone moving back up into the top 5 where we normally see him so often. But Escajeda, talk about him. His qualifying seemingly was his best effort so far in the year, but it's all disintegrated very quickly. Luckily, there is a chance of a comeback, but it's up against drivers who've had far more momentum than Escajeda, who is our defending champion, by the way, but just hasn't quite been able to get the kind of results that he normally did last year.
Well, it's one matter to be fast on a one-lap pace. It's another thing altogether to be fast over the course of an entire race. And Escajeda might be in that bit of a rut at the moment where he can't be fast over the course of a whole race. We'll have to see if that improves throughout the course of the year. You had seen Lewis Charles Cruz make the look on Zach Hudson. Joe Butler's going to have a potential look on Macquarie here. And one car going a tad bit more defensive. They're going to accordion here up into turn number 3, but they managed to keep it out of each other. Everybody kind of took a little bit of a different line that time by, though, through the hairpin.
Yup, indeed, and this means that there's not much passing going on right now. And as I say that, there is an attempt, there is a send in there, but Hudson a bit too far back. Gives you a good indication of how close you actually need to be, and that is good learning, good information for the drivers, because they know, right, if I'm so far back I just can't make that lunge. I need to time my exit or the entry to the corner a little bit better so that I can glide my way out. And how do you gain time on all these drivers? How do you gain time on drivers that are so experienced on a circuit where the margins are so fine? It's just ridiculous to be really fast over here.
Still see Zach Hudson trying to run down Joe Butler just up the road. So far, this pack relatively holding strong with each other, and there aren't a whole lot of gaps that aren't a second or under all throughout this field. It's kind of relatively evenly split out so far all the way throughout this grid, and this is kind of the rhythm that we saw these drivers settling into in the first race we came here just 1 week ago, and it's a similar rhythm we could expect from today's race despite a bigger grid. But as Joe Butler misses the apex, that could open up the door here for Zach Hudson, potentially have a look up into turn number 3, looking for the left. He's going to force Joe Butler on defense. Hudson going to have to try to outbrake that 13 car and carry the momentum around the outside line. Butler cuts it in tight, gets a bit of ground, but Zach Hudson, he's going to have all the momentum he wants out of turn number 3.
So here we are then. The Super Smash Bros going at it against each other at the Red Bull Ring. Finally side by side. Butler having the inside line, and yes, there's a bit of a conceding move right there by Zach Hudson, but I think he'll get a good run. Maybe he might just be on the inside line for the next one.
Thinking about it, gonna go for it. Down to the turn number 5. Joe Butler's forced wide. Doesn't want to risk the run over Zach Hudson, and that's gonna force Hudson through. Zach Hudson showed the nose. I don't think it was gonna be able to be close enough to make the move if Joe Butler had chosen to cover him off. But Joe Butler decided to bail out of the corner, and that's what allowed Zach Hudson to move up a place.
Indeed, yes. And Hudson finally capitalizing on that. For a second, you might be thinking, well, he looks slow at turn number 3, but Hudson smartly understanding where his strengths and where the car would be faster. It's good track awareness, this one, and planning the move to perfection. And I suppose all moves might be just quite like that, because at turn number 1, nobody's going to overtake because you might just be outdrafted back at turn number 2. And after turn number 2, you might not be able to do it over there as well, because, well, you might just be outdrafted at turn number 3. And so at turn 3, you just might want to go to the outside and plan a move for turn 5. It's crazy how many dimensions you need to think about to actually execute a proper move here.
How about deep on the brakes for Charles Cruz, trying to keep Nicholas Leo at bay. Charles Cruz is kind of stalled out on his run. He had a bonsai start, moved up 3 spots with a massive dive bomb on basically half the field up into turn 1 on the first lap of the race, but he has not been able to go much since then. He has remained in 10th place pretty much since then. He has not been able to close in on any ground up to Joe Butler, but he's even lost a little bit of ground back to Nicholas Leo, who's looking to potentially work his way up into the top 10 of this thing.
Yep, Leo right on the edge. I think we've seen Leo fight for around the podium in the first round of the series. I wonder what's happened since then. Maybe just not able to adapt to the circuits as well. But there's always a chance, always things that can be a lot of fun where you can close up in this series, where everyone's just always fighting with each other. But speaking of fighting, I'm really confused to see that Krohn has still not probably made his way back up into the podium places. It's crazy that all the other drivers are able to keep him back for so long now.
But with how powerful the draft can be at a track like this, if you had a bit of these accordion effects throughout the middle of this field, heads up, spinner in the background, and that was Charles Cruz that got tipped around deeper in the field, and Nicholas Leo in it as well. Did they make contact? I just talked about Cruz was starting to lose a bit of ground back to Nicholas Leo. You wonder if they maybe got together in turn number 1.
Okay, that will be interesting. Let's take a look at the RaceSpotTV replay coming up rather soon. But yeah, there we are with it. That is a bit too late for a dive bomb, wouldn't that be?
Oh, they both just lost by
synchronized
themselves.
Spinning. Amazing.
I remember the last time I've seen that.
Yeah. Wow, wow, that is just tremendous. Send it to the Olympics, maybe. They'll do a good job with the synchronized stuff. That is just crazy to see something like that happen.
You had just seen Jackson Ball able to go evasive around the left-hand side as well into the turn 1 runoff. A very weird incident, man. Possibly target fixation. Nicholas Leo was so focused trying to run down Charles Cruz that when Cruz made the mistake, Leo fell into the exact same hole. So that sends both cars tumbling outside of the top 10. We look back up now to Zach Hudson and Tyler McGuire, who can now battle unimpeded for P number 7 down the front straightaway here. Joe Butler's their close competition a long way back. And with them about to lose the draft with Matthias Cajeda, it is between these two now in this battle for 6th place.
Indeed it is. Hudson watching and waiting patiently. Does he get a little bit of draft right here? Does he get something that's enough to go for a move at turn number 2? I get a feeling that there might just be that draft, no backs out and waits. Potentially just saving it up for turn number 3. That might be a smarter option.
But he got a bit too eager on the throttle pedal. You saw that wheel twitch over to the left a little bit. So Zach Hudson's spinning up the tires. And that's actually going to put him into the clutch. So Joe Butler's going to try to go down the inside line. And Butler too deep into turn number 4. Runs 2 wheels into the gravel. Hudson's going to say, oh, thank you very much. I'll take that spot right back. Joe Butler, though, I think saw the mistake there on corner exit of turn 3 from Zach Hudson. And just got a little bit too eager trying to go for it and capitalize.
Exactly. And so Hudson gets what he wants in this case again. It's just classic racing way. Just want to capitalize on your emotions, try to get a little bit extra. But things just don't work out for you eventually. And I like what Hudson's been doing so far. He's been very smart in the way he's been carving up all the positions on the grid. Who knows where he might finish? There is Macquarie just right up the road, and there is a realistic chance, as we saw the last time out.
Got this battle here that is still looking to rage on between Macquarie, Hudson, and Butler. And further up the road, you've got Escajeda trying to close in Wade Michael. And then, of course, got the battle between McGuinness, Butler, and Crone for 4th, 3rd, and 2nd on the racetrack. But so far, there's still the one to watch. Oh, my goodness! Butler, holy cow, talk about going far into the grass. Somehow holds it and wrestles it back and still trying to mount a charge up there to go for 8th place up into turn 3. That was a very late block there from Zach Hudson. A weird one at that. Lifted off the brakes well before he had to. I have nothing to say about what might have happened there.
Yeah, what was that? That was one of the most dramatic sends I've ever seen in the series. And talk about that send. He's going to the outside line this time. This move isn't over, but Hudson says, well, I am the one who did it over here, so you can't pass me right here. I know exactly what I'm doing, but if the battle still rages on. Seriously, what was that send, Nolan?
I wonder if Hudson tried to give the spot back. There's just miscommunication as to where Joe Butler was supposed to go in order to make that swap a successful one, and that's what kind of ended up in that close scenario. But Joe Butler continues to fight on the right-hand side of the screen, and on the left, you see Anders Crone trying to run down Max Butler up in P number 2, who is in prime position here to probably take the points lead away if he can try to finish up a little bit higher than Anders Crone. Anders Crone struggled and just maintained that points lead, and at the moment, Anders Crone looks like he'll be set to potentially have a huge run here up into turn number 3, and is he going to go for it? Yes, he is. Anders Crone looking over the right-hand side. He's going to be deeper on the brakes. But Max Butler down to the turn number 3 and takes the spot away at the hairpin, and then perfectly cuts across Butler's front wing corner X to prevent him from getting the run.
It was all partially expected, this one. We had a chat with Max Butler last time out, and he said, well, Crone just seems to have a little more raw pace. And it's that raw pace that is paying off right now as Crone continues his fight back into a position where he always should have been, P number 2. But he's up against McGuinness. And McGuinness last time out, Nolan, was quite fast, by the way. He was second, but just not as quick as Crone, who was just dominant. But that also could be down to the fact that McGuinness had to fight with everybody while Crone had clean air. Now, Crone is in that different situation. He's the one involved in the scrap. How well can he hold himself up in this situation now?
There's only one way to wait and see, and that is to ride on board with Max Butler and see if he can maybe run down Anders Crone and try to retake 3rd place. And they're about to pass up Rick Sheldon in pit road. You probably saw Sheldon fade away into the pits, and we'll keep our eyes on this battle here. But the story behind that, let's talk about downshifting too quickly into turn number 3, blowing the transmission. Didn't think that was a possibility in the Star Mazda, but it goes to show that it's a season for firsts. We've seen that time and time again. And that trend continues. Looking at his Crone with the runner. Robert McGuinness going to go to the right-hand side up through turn 2 into the braking zone of 3. Robert McGuinness backs off and allows Anders Crone to easily take 2nd place.
Will there be a fight back, though? I expect to see something happening. Maybe McGuinness just saying, right, you might go right now, but not so easily later on. Turn 3 is your best chance for that. Around the outside, use the momentum. And McGuinness, he's not going to try because Crone has blocked off that line already.
Well, and I have a feeling that Robert McGuinness is kind of thinking, I'm already in a very good position for points here. Even if you have Max Butler go past you, you got no competition from behind at the moment. So I'm pretty sure McGuinness he's fine with losing a few points. He just needs to be ahead of Wade Michael at the end of this race to pull ahead of the points battle for 3rd place and take that away. And Wade Michael is all the way back in 5th place, a couple of seconds behind them. So at the moment, McGuinness doesn't have anything to worry about. He is more than fine to just sit back and just kind of run his race. No point in taking unnecessary risks when you're already on target for your goal.
Yeah, but is that fun though? As a racing driver, can you ever tell yourself, right, I'll drop down a position because it's all right to do? Racing drivers, well, it might kill off a part of their selves in a way. They don't just want to concede position whenever they're racing, even though they might be comfortable. A lot of them will say, right, I still want to fight for this position. I still want to keep hold of P number 3 and don't want to let go of a potential podium, which might be such a momentum changer for McGuinness, who's been struggling partly in the season. 2 podiums in a row at the Red Bull Ring, not a bad way to end the season, to go to the mid part of the season, I mean to say.
Matthew Escajeda attempted to make the pass and finally put himself on a net gain up on Wade Michael. He has been trying so hard. Matthew Escajeda started all the way up in 3rd place. He's trying to work his way back up into the top 5. You saw him trying to go around the left-hand side as we see the battle for 2nd place continuing on with Anders Krone, and deeper in the field, Escajeda was not able to make that pass successful on Wade Michael. But Escajeda, we talked about him before, he's been trying to just work his way back up into the top 5 after a miserable start. Saw him tumbling out of the podium.
Yeah, exactly. Escajeda has been superb in terms of just a fight back so far this year. And in the first couple of rounds, really didn't seem like this was the Escajeda who won the championship. And there is a very genuine reason for that. We changed cars. We're no longer racing the USF 2000, we're actually on the Pro Mazda. And both of these machines may look similar to the naked eye for many people, right? But they are so different in the way they drive, in the way they race, and it takes time. And so with time, as we expected, Escajeda is doing better. Up against Wade Michael now for P5.
Right up against Wade Michael here and slowly losing time. Back to Tyler McQuarrie just in behind. Escajeda will potentially get a run. You can see Wade Michael having to weave across the track. Escajeda gonna look over to the left-hand side. Wade Michael though, deeper on the brakes. Escajeda though tries to carry the momentum and he'll get that better launch out of turn 3 and could have a run up here into turn number 4. On the left-hand side, there's a battle for P2 still raging on. That doesn't go anywhere though into turn 4. Escajeda though, looking to finally work his way back up. Look for the inside line as Michael swings across the track. And a bad exit from Wade Michael allows Escajeda to pull side by side up for turn 5 before they go back on the brakes for 6 and duck back down the hill. But Escajeda just can't carry the run around the outside line. Now look who's in the fray. Tyler McQuarrie and Zach Hudson have been pulled in.
And Hudson and McQuarrie have been on fire today. Hudson especially, he's been very smart in the way he's been making all his moves. And so, there's a genuine chance that being all the way back in P8, he could potentially finish, believe it or not, even in P number 4. Just wait and watch to see how this battle evolves and how things actually play out eventually. But first, McGuinness also being close by the throne. I don't know why he's not going for that something extra special here.
Looking at turn 1, Michael trying to defend against Escajeda. Escajeda thought about the outside, bubbles on the exit of turn 1, but is going to be able to pull alongside. Here comes McQuarrie, here comes Hudson. They're 2 wide, 2 rows deep. 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th onto the blanket. McQuarrie going to go in the middle, going to make it 3 wide. Up into the turn 3 hairpin. This is the battle that we're used to seeing. The absolute insanity of the battle that we're used to seeing. Escajeda is going to manage to maintain side by side. McQuarrie ends up losing out in the position up to Zach Hudson as he's forced to bail out from the middle. Escajeda and Wade Michael, they're still going to be battling side by side in the sprint up towards turn number 4. Hudson can't make a move, and it's going to be McQuarrie to go back down the inside. He'll take up a position on Zach Hudson, and finally, Escajeda breaks past Wade Michael to work his way up into 5th.
And to compound Wade Michael's misery, it could be McQuarrie coming in too quickly. Here's a bit of a send to the inside, but at the same time, Michael goes to the outside line. This is crazy. What a run that was. And Wade Michael moves back up. Wow, the momentum.
Absolute insane pace from Wade Michael to make that move work around the outside line, but you're under 5 minutes to go. You have to make these moves now. You can't afford to wait any longer. There's the launch of McQuarrie down into turn number 10. He had to back out of it, almost ran over the right rear tire of Escajeda. We're talking inches away from complete disaster. Hudson looked for the inside of turn 1, but he's not close enough to make it. Escajeda runs wide with the sausage curve, but McQuarrie puts the power down too early. That allows Hudson to make up another spot.
And this exchange has been going on for the last couple of moments. Hudson, Macquarie, oh man, they're just gonna keep on fighting. This will not end until the timer goes off. And look at this, exactly what I said. Hudson makes a bit of an error, opens up the door, and Macquarie just put one foot in there, but that wasn't enough. The chances will keep on coming though, but for how long is the question? Only 3.5 minutes. If something has to happen, something concrete must happen now.
And throughout this insane battle, you saw that it was in fact Max Butler that worked his way back up past Robert McGinnis. Pass was made, appeared to be into turn number 4, but that was while they were still going side by side with no regard for the safety of those poor suspensions that they're driving underneath them. That must be crying by now as they keep riding them up and over the curves, trying to use as much time as possible. Butler runs super wide through turn 10, and that allows McGinnis to close in just a little bit more time.
McGinnis is getting there, and right now this will be a bit of a stinger of sorts because McGinnis was in such a high position, only in second place until a couple of laps ago, but it's all dropping down right now. And as you rightly mentioned, Nolan, it won't be too bad, all things considered, for McGinnis to finish being number 4. His primary rival is behind him, and that's all that matters in a championship front. But you can see in the way he's driving, he wants more. He wants to be on the podium.
You don't see on the left-hand side that Escajeda still wants to go after that 5th place. Look to the left-hand side of Michael, but couldn't get the hammer down through turn number 3. Zach Hudson trying to capitalize, but he had to sit back in 6th for the time being. He's going to try, though, to look down the inside. Escajeda cuts him off, tries to have his own sin in turn number 4. That causes Michael to get a terrible exit from turn number 4.
Doesn't quite work out. Escajeda has a good one, though. Outside line is the line of choice around turn number 5. Rightfully so, because you can carry the flow of the circuit. And now there's a bit of a send, a bit of a look.
A huge look to the inside for Escajeda, but he manages to hold strong. Zach Hudson going to try to capitalize on the poor exit, though, and get a run to turn number 9, but there's just not enough ground to be made up on the straights.
The momentum, though, look at the flow. Look at the flow of the circuit. Look at how the drivers are coming along with it. Hudson is defending hard from Macquarie. He's got a really good run, but not at turn number 1. Just nobody just wants to make a pass at turn number 1 for some reason. They just aren't getting a run good enough. And so they will try at 2, with Escajeda being the one who ignites the fight.
Hudson to the left. Escajeda backs off. Here comes McGuire looking to capitalize. He's going to go up into P number 7. And I can understand why they don't want to make these looks down to the turn number 1. It puts on a really bad spot for turn 3 at the hairpin. Hudson super wide, has to go over the the sausage curve, excuse me, to avoid running into the grass and avoid getting run over by McGuire just behind. So it's going to be a dead heat drag race between the rookie and a serious veteran down into turn number 4. McGuire holds strong. Hudson makes the cross back, though. Going to try to get him on the exit, down through 5 and headed up to 6.
Come on, Hudson, this is a good one. Again, he has to back out. When will this fight have an end? These guys are just dueling each other and throwing in some big blows, some big punches, and seemingly Macquarie just has that little bit extra, or does he? I think it's no holds barred right now. I think Hudson really has to go for that move right now. But only the final lap in here. Maybe turn 1 might be that place too. He's closer than ever. That's why.
Final lap of the race. You can see the white flag waving from the flag stand over on the pit wall. And now does Hudson choose to make this move here, or does he wait until turn 3? If I'm him, I'm waiting until turn 3. I'm not risking that he gets the draft back. Oh, ends up!
Ooh.
Big spin. Wait, Michael loses it! Michael throws away 5th place, and he's going to be dropping well down the order now, potentially losing the top 10 finish here. Escajeda's going to go side by side, meanwhile, with Max Butler. Part of me that's McGinnis going side by side with Butler up in the turn number 3. Here's the run from Escajeda. He is going to go side by side with Zach Hudson. So Escajeda puts himself up back at a P6, but this fight still is far from over. Look on the left as it's still a drag race for the final podium position. McGinnis is going to hang on as Max Butler tries to fight it back. You can still see Escajeda trying to work big time with Hudson, trying to keep that move covered. Hudson's going to go for the crossover. You can see Max Butler working around the outside of 6, trying to get the run of McGinnis. It's just too much to look at here all at one time for all the different battles. During all of this, Phil Deans is going to come around, turn at number 9. He's got one corner to negotiate. And the 98 car out of the final corner. Phil Deans, in his first ever start, takes a dominant victory at the Red Bull. We're at the end of the double headers. You still got P3 to worry about, though. McGinnis has the run off in turn 10. And Max Butler, there's no time to run it back down.
Will we see a cutback? Will we see something similar in the battle for P number 5? Who would have thought? Who would have thought 2 laps ago that McQuarrie would be 5th, Escajeda would be 6th, Hudson would be 7th, and, well, Michael would be 10th? Who would have thought?
And the mistake from Wayne Michael, all by himself, was pushing too hard through turn 1. The number 2 car rode up onto the sausage curbs, and that is all it took for Michael to be spun around of his own volition through turn number 1, losing out on what could have been a top 5 finish. Complete and utter drama at the Red Bull Rings. We end out the double headers. Take a look at the official post-race results. Phil Deans takes victory in his first ever start. I look forward to having that conversation with him later on tonight. Anders Krone is in 2nd place. Robert McGinnis down in 3rd. Butler 4th. McQuarrie, down in the number 5. It's Matt Escajeda in 6th place. Zach Hudson down in 7th, with Joe Butler in 8th. Jackson Ball 9th. Wayne Michael rounds out the top 10. That's going to leave Nicholas Leo in 11th, Kurt Penzager in 12th. 1 lap down, it is Rick Sheldon along with John Showerman in 14th. Charles Cruz down in 15th. John Trevathan in 16th place, with Stephen Wilson eliminated on just lap number 1 of the race before he could cross over onto the 2nd lap. Fast lap set by, well, no surprise here, Sumo, but Phil Deans on lap number 7. I mean, the guy goes out and he gets that 7-second victory. Not quite as dominant per se as Anders Krone's victory was, but a good win nonetheless. Oh my goodness, what a drive from so many of the guys in the field. We'll see if we can maybe get a chat with some of the guys at the end of this race. And you gotta just wonder, Sumil, how this race could have maybe played out had Anders Krone not spun out of 2nd place.
That's right, yeah. Could have been something a little bit different, but even at that point, he didn't seem just about as fast as in Dennis, right? We saw that in qualifying. Dennis was some couple of tenths here and there faster throughout the lap, which is just a lot when you consider that this circuit is just 9 corners. How do you gain so much of time in 9 corners to a driver that's been so dominant so far? That is just ridiculous, and he has been just piling it on in the race. He was just so consistent about it.
So I'll see if we can't maybe dial up Phil Deans here in just a moment and give a chat to some of the drivers on out here. And we have got a hold of Phil Deans, your race winner from the night. And Phil, what an absolutely powerful drive from you. First ever start in the series, and you take home a W. That's got to feel good.
Yeah, it was awesome. I took a little bit of adjusting getting back into this car. I'm the 2-time defending Red Indy E-Series champion, so I have a lot of time in this car. And, it was just good fun getting back in and, seeing some old faces out here in the series.
Well, in that case, I certainly have to ask, you mentioned it's been good to get back into the car. Is it how you remember it being, or was it ever just a little bit different?
It's actually a lot different. I wasn't expecting it to be like this. They made a big update to the car, and it's a lot, maybe, I guess you could say, more realistic to the real car from the past update. So that's a positive change, and maybe the old car, but it's still one of the best cars on the service.
And you certainly prove that you still know what you're doing behind the wheel. So you come in and you take a race victory today, and I imagine you're going to be looking to potentially have more race wins going forward in the series.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm just here to have some fun. Like I said, I got some old faces here in the series that brought me on, and it's just good to be here with lots of good friends.
And Phil, it's been a pleasure being able to talk to you for the first time tonight, and hopefully we'll be able to talk to you even more throughout the course of your time here in the Real Races Virtual Club. But for now, it's been a pleasure having you on, and we have to wish you all the best going forward with your future endeavors in this series and elsewhere in life.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
So that was Phil Deans taking the race win by 7.8 seconds over points leader Anders Krone on the day. Anders Krone bringing it home in that second place, fighting his way back up to P2. And Sumil, you're standing by with our second driver on the podium.
Anders, firstly, congratulations on P number 2. How was that race for you? We saw that spin early on, but your confidence seemed to be really good towards the end when you passed everyone back in.
I'm so angry at myself for making that mistake, because I knew, when we had Phil coming in, he's a proper sim racer and real racer as well. And, I felt like my chances were going to be limited to stay with him and make a move. And I'm angry at myself for not going for it into turn 3 on the first lap. And then secondly, I'm angry for spinning there, because then once he was gone, then obviously there was no touching him. So, it was nice to recover, to get back up to P2, but what a terrible mistake.
Well, what exactly happened right there? Didn't it just was the rear end snapping off or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. It was just the rear snapping off. I probably made my last downshift a little bit too soon, and I was just really trying to set up a run to try and make a move into turn 3 in the draft there. But just made a mistake and looped it around. So 100% my mistake, and unfortunately Phil was able to get away, and well, he might have got away even without that mistake, to be fair. But it was a big shame.
But mate, positives. Some great overtakes towards the very end, and you still have a pretty good lead in the championship. A good weekend all around, no? No,
yeah, I suppose, and I was really hoping to give Phil a better run for his money there, but no, he did a bang up job, and still a great fun racing through the field again. But just wish I could have got within striking distance of Phil.
Still, good stuff, mate. Either way, it was quite a fun race from you as well. I hope you had a good time. But thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate it.
Mate.
All right, have a good one.
Second place finisher Anders Krone bringing it home on the podium. Managed to work his way back up after that earlier spin, and who knows, maybe a win would have been in the question, but with Phil Deans being so far out in front, you can only help but wonder. So going to continue to move our way down on through the order. We'll see if we can dial up Max Butler, our fourth place finisher on the night. Max Butler is going to join us up here. And Max, you bring it home in fourth place. You were in quite the fight there with Robert Gintis, certainly taking it to him in the final laps.
I learned last time that I needed to dive bomb that dude, and I did. And I was very happy about it, because I learned my lesson from last race, and we had a good race to the end.
Well, how was the race? Was it any better this time around, knowing now how this track could drive from last week?
Yeah, actually, I made a lot of changes to my line, especially I think it was like turn 6. I ended up finding a little bit of grip on the outside that wasn't an incident point, which I was like, winner, I'm taking every little bit I can get. And I think that actually helped me keep pace with Rob up front. And for a while, we were up there with Phil. I have no idea how, because that man is just insanely fast. Excited to see him battling with Anders some more. You could tell Anders was kind of shook, and considering the run he's had in this series so far, that's pretty exciting.
And of course, you look going forward, we swing over to Great Britain, and it'll be Silverstone coming on up next. Of course, a legacy layout, so still keeping with that legacy tradition that you guys had last year, but it is a shorter layout this time around. Do you think that could mean a different style of race for Silverstone?
It'll 100% be a different style of race. With this car, the draft at that specific track is going to be insane. I'm quite happy here in Indiana that it's the fall season, kind of getting colder, because I have a feeling we're all going to have a big old group hug going through a lot of corners at that track. So very excited for that. I'm kind of just enjoying the fourth place in such a large field today. It was insane seeing how many people from actual motorsports made it into this race. I mean, you have guys from the IMSA field, IndyCar drivers, Road to Indy drivers, and to finish up top, well, at least near the top, is very exciting for me.
And of course, it provided plenty of action for us on the track to be able to cover. And your battle is one of the ones that we were kind of looking to further throughout the race, and we'll hopefully be able to see you battling more like that when we swing on over to England in just 1 week's time. So for now, Max, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us out here tonight from the Red Bull Rings. We get set to leave Austria, and we'll see you next week in England.
Of course. I know I get you choked up with my awesome battles. Don't worry about it. More to come. So see you guys.
That was Max Butler bringing it home in a 4th place finish, just not able to eke out one over Robert McGinnis. And that's going to bring out Matthew Escajeda, who was in one of the most intense fights we've ever seen all race long. And Sumo, I'll let you take our P6 finisher.
Matthew, those last few laps were just crazy. Can you just talk us through exactly what was going on there? Because that was frantic to watch.
So, yeah, the whole race I was just trying to not hit the back of Wade because we were pretty equal on pace. I might have been a little bit quicker. That's why I kept catching him, but I was just trying not to take him out. And then I finally gained the courage to try to pass him. And I started fighting for it. And then I got ahead for a little while. Then he passed me back because he had the momentum, but then he spun out, and then it was me, Zach, and Tyler just going at it. And there was so much going on, I barely remember it, but my heart was pounding out of my chest the whole time. It was really close. It was tough. It was scary.
Scarily fun, I can imagine. This weekend and the last one as well, on the whole, just must be a good one. P6 and P7. How's the momentum coming along in the series, mate, after what seemingly was a very tough start?
Well, I've been practicing a lot this week, so just, practicing a lot and getting more comfortable with the braking and the throttle and off the throttle, everything pretty much, and just learning the car better now. Maybe a little too late, but considering the competition, I think I'm having a lot of fun though.
Yeah, that's always what it should be like. And Matthew, which circuit next in the calendar are you most looking forward to? Because seriously, after Red Bull Ring, there's great expectations on all the other ones. The racing here was just superb.
Well, Sonoma and Laguna are my home tracks, so I have just hundreds and hundreds of laps on each of them in the simulators, or games, and looking forward to those two mostly.
Should be fun. Matthew, thank you for taking the time to speak with us. Have a good weekend up ahead, and hopefully see you back in for the next round.
All right. Thank you, guys.
That was Matthew Escajeda bringing it home in the middle of an intense, what was a 4-car fight, ended up being a 3-car fight on the final lap of the race. An unbelievable finish then here from the Red Bull Ring. And that is going to be, about all the drivers we're going to be able to talk to tonight. But you look forward into the next race going forward. You head back over to Silverstone. The last year, though, Subo, it was the Grand Prix circuit. This next week, though, it is going to be a much shorter national layout, though. That cuts off about half of the Grand Prix circuit. That should be an entertaining race, to say the very least.
Yeah, exactly. It'll take a bit of time to get used to the national circuit. Normally, you just expect to just take the whole thing in a whole flow, but when it's shorter, you have to be a little more aware. It keeps you more on your toes. And the racing right there, I've seen it can be quite a lot of fun on other simulators. So I expect nothing different over here when we get to Silverstone in a week's time. Again, just the drivers, man. Just the drivers make it so much fun in this championship.
Should be an entertaining race, to say the very least. And of course, with Anders Krohn getting one up over Max Butler here, he has improved on his points lead. He's now looks to be about 30 up from Max Butler at the end of the day. Now 105 points to Max Butler's 85. Of course, I'll have to wait for the drop weeks to be factored on into that one before that is all counted out. But after that, who knows? Points lead might be even closer. They did not finish far away at all. But for now, from the Red Bull Ring, it is going to be time to wrap on up here for RaceSpotTV. I've been Olorempo with Subo Aurora beside me in the commentary box. Hugo Luis, once again, doing a great job behind the cameras for tonight's race. Thank you for joining us for Tuesday Night Action from the Real Racers Virtual Club, presented by Liberty Group. We'll see you guys all next week in England.